Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Empire of Stomaria. Today I want to give a progress report for Southwood, a Stomarian province. So this video isn't going to be an especially long one because it has been absolutely miserable all morning. It has lightened up a little bit, the rain has subsided somewhat, so I'm just taking the opportunity to quickly take a video of Southwood, what I've been working on over the last couple of days, and just to give you a brief rundown of what the plan is going forward. So first of all, we did have some gravel and sand being brought in, just the entranceway there. Just to tidy things up a little bit. It still needs to be knocked around, probably more's going to be required, I'm sure, in the fullness of time. It's literally just to stop it from being such a quagmire. But yeah, it's just stone and sand at the moment, just to alleviate the pressure of having so much mud about. Makes doing any works here very, very difficult. So, as you can see, if you have been here before, we have shrunk the memorial garden down. These cones, by the way, are here because it is a bit of a quagmire. There's some tree stumps that came out of there, and what's there now is quite squishy, so we need to have a look at that, but that's there just as a warning not to walk in that kind of area. But you can see the memorial garden has been shrunk, and this little entranceway extended slightly. The idea being that hopefully going forward we'll mitigate the need to park out on the road. It's a private road. Which is fine, but you know, we just don't want to aggravate anyone unnecessarily, so we just want to make sure there's room for a couple of vehicles here, and this was a part of the plan here, just to make access for potentially one more vehicle. But as I say, the memorial garden has been shrunk because it didn't need to be as big, and so we're going to utilize the space here. If we walk down here, you can see the flags, as always, flying in the breeze. You can see that some more raised beds have been established. I'll pop in there in just a moment. Here is King Raoul's little project at the moment. This large stump here, which I was initially just going to leave in place, but for whatever reason he was determined to take it out. He started that a couple of days ago, still yet to come out. Here's what's been taken out so far, so a work in progress there. But I needed to plant the rhubarb that arrived a couple of days ago. It was actually due for delivery a lot earlier than that, so I just wanted to get it in, so these two beds have been planted next to it. I don't think it's going to have a major impact in taking this out, because he's not digging it out, he's just splitting it and tearing pieces off, as you can see here. But if those two small stumps there, or large stumps, the rest of the stump, they do come out, we're just going to extend the beds a little bit further here, and that will fill in that gap nicely. So, as I mentioned in previous videos and in previous posts, rhubarb is the way to go at the moment. And so each of these beds has 2 rhubarb in it. Now, initially I did plant a single rhubarb crown, a single rhubarb plant in each of the beds. But that was back in November, and they didn't seem to take very well. And I was a bit suspicious when I put them in, because they didn't seem quite the same as what I had used before. For those that remember, just back there was a rhubarb plant that did very well. So what I did is I went back to that original source. I purchased 70 rhubarb. I think we ended up with 75 for whatever reason, which is why those small pots are back there with the remainder ones. I'll talk about those in a second. But these are doing much better. So you can see they're already showing some signs of life, and this is only after a few days, so that's terrific. But yeah, the other ones that were planted, I think there were 2 that were showing signs of life. This is the only bed actually that isn't rhubarb. This is actually a grapevine. We're going to be leaving this here, and I will be talking about that in due course. But the rest of these are all rhubarb, because we're going full rhubarb here at Southwood. So as I say, 2 of these rhubarb plants in each one. It's all terrific. And hopefully these stumps will come out at some point in the near future, potentially get another 2 beds in, and maybe get another 4 rhubarb crowns in there. If that is the case, then these ones, for whatever reason, we ordered 70, but they sent 75, I guess in case some of them were duds or didn't quite take. So I put 1, 2, 3 in there and 1, 2 in there. Now, I'm not an expert on rhubarb, but as I understand it, they don't actually like being moved once they've been established. So if these stumps do come out, I'll have to quickly get some raised beds, quickly line them, fill them with soil, and then get these transplanted as quickly as possible, give them the best chance as possible of surviving. But if for whatever reason they just stays there for a long period of time, my thinking is if some of these, for instance, don't take, then potentially these ones will, and we can just quickly transplant them that way. So either way, we will try to utilize them. But these 3 beds here have been newly established, and those 2 beds over there have been newly established. So we have 36 raised beds now, one of which has a grapevine. So 35 raised beds with 2 rhubarb crowns in each. And I am hoping that this is going to yield some positive results going forward, because we did have success with rhubarb last year. And it was actually one of the crops that was successfully harvested in quite a major way. Now, as I understand it, we don't actually need, or we shouldn't harvest rhubarb for the first year. So in 2024 and potentially 2025, we will not be harvesting the rhubarb, but we will be instead leaving it until later on for it to fully establish, and then it should hopefully yield some positive results going forward. The spread on these, as I understand it, the radius in which they grow is about 1 meter. Now, they are obviously going to overlap a little bit if that is the case, because these beds are 1.2 meters long. But my thought process is, because it is a wooded area, I'm not convinced it's going to get enough sun, because I do prefer, they will grow in partial shade, but they prefer full sun. And my logic, my thinking is that in partial shade, maybe they won't grow as vigorously, they won't grow as big, so we may as well utilize the space. And there's also the point that if one of them does fail for whatever reason, one die off, then the bed isn't completely wasted for that year, because another rhubarb plant will be grown in there as well. And hopefully double the chances of some returns. So that is what I have been working on over the last day or so in terms of rhubarb. I have been doing other works elsewhere, which I'll go through in a moment. But yeah, I think we are getting to the point now where we have almost gotten to where we want to be in terms of produce here. Now, I have pondered. Now, notwithstanding these 2 beds that potentially go in here, I was potentially going to install another 12 in the fullness of time down here. So we have 4 beds there, just pull them down another 4, another 3, sorry, up to this point. So potentially relocating some of these fruit trees, because even though they are alive and they do blossom, I think it's unlikely that they're going to yield much in the way of produce in the near or distant future. So what I might do is I might transplant these over there and then amongst those pines over there after we have dealt with them, because going forward I would like to remove these pine trees and potentially some of these spindly oak trees, depending on whether or not we get approval or permission to do so, obviously. Well, the same with all the trees, the pine trees, the oak trees, whatever else, because a lot of them are, the oak trees in particular, because of the pine trees, have been bending and twisting in order to try to get some sunlight, and they're just not growing very straight or very healthy, so I'm a bit concerned about them. A lot of the trees here are sort of dead or dying or falling over and can potentially be quite dangerous. We have had a few instances where branches have fallen and broken various trellises and things like that, and if it falls on someone, then that's obviously not great for obvious reasons. So we are looking to potentially, in the purpose of health and safety, as much as anything, try to reduce the number of trees that are overhanging where we're going to be operating. But all that to one side, what else I was doing, where are we? So today is Wednesday, so on Monday I was also carrying on the fence line here and dismantling, or begun to dismantle, what was effectively a children's play area. So all of this here was like an old play shed and things like that, so all of this has been pulled out from here, and so I've extended the fence a little bit further along. Just stop there for the moment because there is a log there which we need to sort of chainsaw out and then potentially carry down to the road there, or maybe just tie off there. We need to sort of behind here is just loads of rubbish or things that need to be sorted out and organized in some fashion. A lot of these toys I think are being donated to a local group. Again, more rubbish knocking around. It just needs to be collected and brought out, just tidying up gradually. But for those that remember, there was an entire chicken pen here during the Imperial Summit, and that's obviously all gone now, and it's been gradually replaced with something a bit more streamlined, a bit more slick. And trying to keep things to a minimum here is the game plan. So this is why we're settling on rhubarb, because it's the simplest to do. It doesn't require us to be here 24/7. It's quite a hardy perennial plant, so it can pretty much look after itself. In here we do have the raspberries, potentially make some raspberry and rhubarb jams or something to that nature. As you can see, I think in there, not quite focused, but there's some greenery in there, some life in there. So hopefully we will get some rhubarb and some raspberries, and I think strawberries potentially going to be growing at the back to grow, and hopefully we're going to be utilizing them as preserves, which will obviously increase their shelf life by some margin. In here we obviously have all of the leaves that have been collected, so they're all sort of, I mean, this was brimful when I first put it in, so it's obviously compacting down somewhat. It's composting, it's decomposing, it's doing what it's going to do. It's going to be some time doing that. I don't know if it's going to be successful in its entirety, but you don't know until you try, and so that's what we're doing there. Likewise, under here is indeed more leaves. I wanted to see what was going to be more effective, if we just literally piled them up and chucked a tarp over it, just to sort of mulch them down, have them rot down, or compost down, however you want to define it, or if using the bins was going to be a better option. So basically this is an experiment to see which is going to be more fruitful, more successful, and then we can sort of go from there. So everything at Southwood is very much trial and error from my own perspective, in the sense that everything that we establish and build, and all the water butts we put in, and the compost bins that we put in, and all the plants that we establish and grow and try to harvest, it's all going to be trial and error from my own perspective, because I've never done anything like this before, and I want to take the lessons that we learn at Southwood and apply them once we get additional territory. Which is going to be sort of grander in scale. It won't necessarily be a woodland territory. There will always be variables, obviously, in terms of the types of land that we buy, but ultimately what I want to do is use this as an experimental province to try different things and see what works and see what doesn't, see what's going to take off and see what's not. And I have learned various things along the way. I have learned a lot about the sort of agricultural side of things, about composting, about building, about collecting and purifying water and that sort of thing. I mean, all of these things we need to be aware of if we're going to push this further and faster, and having me be aware of how everything works is important, because I don't want to be the Emperor of Stomaria in name only. I don't want to point a finger and just say work that out. I want to understand what's happening. I want to know what's happening, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to build that. And so that has been our plan of attack for the immediate future. I actually just cleaned off the tools as I'm about to go, organised the shed as well, so just got some bits and bobs in there, which is obviously under lock and key. But yeah, in terms of forestry works, in terms of agriculture, in terms of water collection, it's all going on here, and it is very exciting for me to be able to do that. But I do have some more updates going forward, some more videos. I know it has been quiet in recent months for obvious reasons, but yeah, I mean, hopefully we're going to get things back on track in some small way, get some semblance of normality, and then we'll go from there. So if you wanted to show your support for Stomaria, then please feel free to give this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.